Hey, sorry about that. Apparently my mic was... It was defaulting to the wrong mic, so it wasn't picking up. Okay, welcome in folks. I'm Babaginator. We are in the long dark doing an Interloper challenge called Roll With It. It is a punishment of my own design. I've done this challenge a couple times now. Well, actually, I've attempted it many times, finished it once, twice. I think I've done twice now. Once for certain. I think I restarted the challenge when they expanded the areas. And then this time, I think we are going to... I think Sunrain Pass was added after. Where is our wolf? Guess we'll probably look for him in the morning. Back to our cave. Got plenty of time to explore this region. It's not a very big region. So how's everyone doing tonight? I am doing pretty well. I'm starting two separate D&D groups, two separate campaigns, and had a first session last night, which was okay. I don't think of it as my best work, but it was decent enough. Part of the problem was that we have 6 people in that group, and 2 of them were unable to make the very first session due to some last-minute changes. Of course, scheduling is always going to be an issue, but it's really hard if you want the party to start off and have a reason to work together. So, in some respects, our first session ended up being more roleplay and exploration of the town and less plot advancing. Yeah, so next week we will kick off in full gear. But yeah, it was a little slow. We didn't really have any combat. We had a couple of weird encounters with some locals in the town. You know, we rolled some dice, but yeah. Tomorrow night, I'm running a second group who have chosen the same starting village. So I am trying to figure out how much I want to deviate from the first group's setup. I want to give them a fairly unique... I don't want to get into the situation where I'm comparing each group in terms of how they're handling the same set of encounters. I don't think that's a very productive way to run multiple groups, at least not for me. So I am going to try to come up with a fairly significantly different start for them. or at least nudge them in a very different direction. So, yeah, they may choose to pursue the same things, but we'll see how that goes. All right. I think I'm going to stream for about 2 hours tonight, so... Okay, so far we seem to be fine. But I don't think it's going to last forever, so...
Come on, little fire.
I can tell it's going to be a really long 4 days here. Do we use the coal? Might have to. Okay, we got 3 hours. getting warmer. Okay. Looks suspicious. How are we doing right now? We are day 32, almost 33. Something up there. Oh, looky here. Food. I don't think this will be warm enough, but we'll try.
Come on, little fire. Perfect.
Okay, so the fire's not going to be warm enough to keep us warm, but this is definitely a situation where we can drop a few teas. Okay, so let's see, what do we have right now? We just have jeans. Okay, so I think he died over by the dam. Yeah, if you're just joining us, we are doing Roll With It. Here is the full explanation of what we're doing. And if you're curious about me, this is a little bit about me. How are we doing for matches? 26. Probably be fine. At the very least, we can recover our arrow. Well, since we already have one wolf pelt, we might consider doing more. Need for more firewood, though. What's going on over here? I don't know if I've ever noticed this. Can we get up here? What's up here? Oh, interesting. A little fire protected nook. Or wind protected nook for starting fires. Learn something new. Let's see what else we got here. See. Focus on gathering sticks, not chopping things up. Let's see, we were here earlier. Okay, nothing new. Hmm. Uh-oh. That was dumb. Where is everyone tonight? So quiet. Not a peep. Oh, here's another one.
Barely walk with this much gear. Come on, little fire.
Of course, I think part of the challenge is we are starting here, now that I live out here on the East Coast. My starting time is different than what it was when I was out west. So people that used to come on right at the beginning of the stream now come on towards the end of the stream.
Come on.
Okay, let's do some herbal tea and some rose hips. It looks like we're warm enough.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Okay, lots of feathers now. Oh, why are the only people showing up people we need to ban? Oh. Still lots of time left. But we should conserve energy. Actually, we should look for more firewood. Ooh. Grab the sticks we can and head back. Hey folks, welcome in. I'm Babaginator, and everyone just calls me Baba. I stream The Long Dark, and we're doing an Interloper challenge called Roll With It, in which every time we enter a new region, we roll a die, and it tells us how many days we're going to be there. And as time goes on, the size of the die increases. So things get a little tough in places when we roll high and we don't have the resources to stay. We have to somehow survive. But hey, you're playing The Long Dark. Of course you're going to have to somehow survive. Them's the breaks. Not always do things go your direction, and not always are you in control of the timeline. Come what may, You must be out on midnight of the day that you're supposed to leave. And then you immediately roll as soon as you arrive. Find out how long you're supposed to stay in the new region. So sometimes it's just 24 hours if you roll one, but other times you can be there 10, 15, 20 days. Okay, let's see what we got here. Don't have much. Well, I think we'll probably have a pretty quiet night tonight on stream unless we get some late joiners. That's okay. Some of you will catch this later on YouTube. Yeah, if we don't have a lot of turnout tonight, I may end early and go to bed early, get some extra sleep. Okay, it's a little gutsy, but why don't we try? Nope, takes 2. So we're plus 15. Oh, we do have meat. See our meat. Okay, let's not freeze to death. Okay, we made it through. So the other day I went into the, I guess it's called Service Ontario. Basically, it's government licensing and paperwork stuff, and I was switching my driver's license over, and yeah, at least that was the plan. Turns out you need extra paperwork because I moved around between provinces and from out of the U.S. a little too often in the last 10 years. And so they required me to go back to Saskatchewan and BC and request my full driver abstracts because they don't have access to the full record. So that meant that my appointment was kind of wasted because they wouldn't process my paperwork without them. And I didn't know how long it would take to get them. Turns out, actually, for BC, they can do it pretty much instantaneously. You just email them, or you fill out the form online, and then like less than a minute later, you have it in your mailbox. Saskatchewan was about a minute, but it cost you an extra $15, so there was that. If I'd known, I could have done it all while I was there, but instead I have to go back next week. And since I don't have an appointment next week, I'm going to have to go and just camp out first thing in the morning and hope I can get in quickly. Okay. Oh, that doesn't sound pleasant. Okay, we are on day 33. Leave day 36. Now it's getting cold. Got 9 sticks.
Perfect.
One hour.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
How are we doing here? 34. Still a couple more days. Okay, what are we gonna do? Oh. Oh, it's almost time to sleep. Okay, still here. Still tired. Yeah, I think we'll probably finish early. At the very least, we'll probably take a short rest. And okay, what are we going to do? After an hour already. Numbers are few. The Okay. I'm going to take a very short 5-minute bio break. Be back in I think. Okay, back here.
It's getting dark out here. Time to look for shelter.
Too cold. Can't break anything down. Could shoot a bunny though. You and bunny. Change direction. not in love with these shots here. But we'll take it. So that was our first kill. We killed the bunny. No, second kill. We killed the wolf and then we killed the bunny. Still more time. Okay, so let's see how many. Just don't really have very much. Six.
Come on, little fire. Come on. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
41. Okay, let's try to get some recovery in tonight. Better. $34, almost $35. So we're on day 35 now. Which means we're almost done. We've killed one rabbit, one wolf. Okay. We're going to go all the way back to the upper section of the dam. Not inside, on the outside, but we're going to look for some scrap metal, and we're going to look for more food. Okay, here we are. Yep, there's this guy.
Come on, little fire. Oh, lucky day.
I think we're going to have to use the tea truck again. Oh, we left the hands behind. Oh well. All we want is the meat. Maybe we'll take the hind as well. I don't think we have time for curing guts. Okay, let's run. Oh, So let's see, we're on our last night here. And then we're out in the morning. Into PV for however long we get. Okay. Okay. I don't think we have very much firewood left, just one stick. Yeah. Let's save our torch for now. Hey, Roller, welcome in. Yeah, I'm probably not going to stay up too long. I think I'm going to probably cut it short tonight. Just feeling a little tired. So we'll probably go for another 10 minutes or so. We'll see. Still getting used to the schedule. But I do find like the balancing act between streaming and being up early is a little bit of a challenge. Be easier to stream the nights before I work from home. You know, 1 day a week I work from home, or at least that's what I'm going to try to do. And if I could plan that right, I could stream the night before, and then I could, you know, when I get up to work, I don't have to spend time rushing to work because I'll be just working from home. So let me, you know, rest a little bit more the next day. I think that might be a good solution. But next Monday, I will be working from home, except I won't actually be able to benefit from that since I have to run an errand first thing in the morning. So it still means I'm going to be up early. Yeah. But I ran my first session with the first of the two groups that I'm running games for, and it was okay. But we had 6 people, 4 people came, 2 people had scheduling conflicts right off the bat. Great. Promise they'll have it sorted out for next week. And so instead of being able to launch like right into the campaign, I kind of had to have a soft launch where I let them get to know the village a little bit more and get involved in a few little hijinks locally. But I'm kind of stalling until next week to really launch that campaign. Whereas tomorrow night's campaign should be able to launch right away. I think everyone's planning to be there, so. Except for one person who might be... No, the sick person that was in the Tuesday group. Actually, there might be one person who can't make it because of another conflict. So, yeah, we'll do the best we can. So, it is day 35. Next stream, we will pick up and leave Winding River and go to PV. As it stands, we have been busy curing things. These ones are still a long ways off, but over here is our pile of stuff that's cured. So we've got guts, we've got saplings, we've got hides. Yeah, it's looking good. It's done. Okay. Okay. A little bit better. Okay, so here we go. Okay, let's see here. Officially on day 36, it is time to go. So we'll resolve that next time. Okay, we're saved at day 36. Time to go. So we will pick this up next time. And let's read a poem, and then we'll be done for tonight. We'll find some great after that. Double. Okay. So this is from Babbage's Dream, my second book of poetry, published by Sundress Publications in 2017. This is called Double, and it's from a series of poems inspired by programming terms. Double, in this case, refers to a double integer, which is a very long, well, it's a data type capable of storing very large whole numbers, integers. So not fractional. Double. Our faces pressed to the screen, the dull beat of numbers, day after day, the turn of the mechanical crank, the machine itself another conundrum, a simulacrum formed of clay and metal, a dumb creature of no will but our own. How it sings into the dimmest hours of night, a silence as resonant as the wail of a distant train that only you can hear, your ears keen to the sound. Outside our windows the moon is a crucible of light, the air full of strange awakenings, the first stirrings of a thing reaching for a name, the veil between us thin as a mirrored shield. In the glass, a shadow, a twin. At this hour, who can tell the difference between one face and another? Thing and thing maker, we are what we are, the two of us pulling together to form a single passage through the dark. The stars above us spilling over with their old stories of light and nothingness. Whatever we had to say to the mind within is gone now, turned into a gesture, a little ghost, a secret we share like blood, or a cancer that passes unnoticed until it writes the body anew. Okay, so there's a lot going on in Double. I mean, obviously Double here plays off of doppelganger and mirror images and sort of fear of being replaced, fear of encountering ourselves. And then a lot of the language here kind of plays off of that too. A simulacrum is out of sort of these medieval kind of magical texts, the idea of building something that could be a double, could be a replacement for a living thing. A golem is a simulacrum. Let's see, what else? There's a lot of references to... I do this a few times in the book, and I reference something that Babbage said about how his ear was peculiarly tuned to the sound of a distant train, or as he called it, a distant engine, because he was such a big fan of locomotives, trains in Britain in the early days, that he would be waiting at the station for another demonstration of the train, and as everyone else was gathered there trying to see the train coming, he would tell them that it was on its way because he could hear it. He could hear it before anyone else could hear it. And so I always thought that was a really interesting, kind of wonderful way of thinking about his own relationship with a different engine, which was the analytical engine, which would have been the first computer. How long before anyone else could see it or hear it, he had it in mind. He knew where it was coming, he knew it was on its way. There's a lot here that also, like I see, plays into our current anxieties and thoughts about AI. Thing and thing maker, we are what we are, the two of us pulling together to form a single passage through the dark. The line between, the creator and the created here becomes blurred And yeah. Oh, Affy Blackheart, welcome in, Raiders. I'm just doing a little wrap up for our the end of our stream because we're ending a little bit early tonight. But thanks for coming in. I can hang out for a little bit and chat. I'm Babbage Nader. I go by Baba. Like most people just call me Baba. I'm a magical unicorn raid. Yay! So yeah, this is a little bit about me. I could read another poem. So I am, in addition to being a TLD streamer, I also am a writer. I'm the author of 2 books of poetry. I've done some translation work. I'm also a former computer games programmer. I teach creative writing on the side, and I'm currently working as a data programmer at a university in Toronto. And so, so I kind of have all sorts of weird, different perspectives on things, and I've done a lot of different things over the years. I have a PhD in English literature and creative writing, and I wrote a dissertation on 19th century artificial intelligence. And then I also, have a background, like I said, in computer programming. So it's quite the spectrum. But if it's geeky and weird, maybe a little bit historical, I probably have something to say about it. So that's that. And then the challenge we're doing right now, for those of you who love hearing about interesting interloper challenges or other long dark challenges, we do something called Roll With It. This is something I developed a few years back. I have done this. I've made multiple attempts. I did 30 attempts before I completed it the first time. And since then, I think the added Sundered Pass. So we're going to do this with the intent of like picking up a new region as well. But basically, we do an Interloper 1 where we visit every single region in the entire game. But the catch is this. Every time we enter a new region, including when we spawn, we have to roll a die, and it tells us how many days we are going to be there. So we don't know until we arrive how long we're going to be there. We cannot leave early and we cannot leave late. And as days go on, at every 50 days, the size of the die or the number range increases. So for major regions, like the regular regions, it's 1 to 10 days for the first 50 days. For the first 50 days, it's 1 to 10 days per stay. But after 50 days, it becomes 1 to 20. And so if you're a good old D&D player and you have all these dice around, you'll kind of understand sort of the notation of 1d10, 1d20. For transition zones or micro regions, kind of the in-between places like Crumbling Highway, or I would count Milton Basin, or the climb down region between Mystery Lake and Mountain Town I count those as their own little self-contained regions, and you still have to roll for those. Those are small regions, so you start off with 1 to 4, but at 50 days it becomes 1 to 6, and then at 100 days becomes 1 to 8, and 150 days becomes 1 to 10. That's every single time you enter these regions. So you got to plan in advance so that you're not kind of wasting time traveling back and forth through regions that you really don't want to revisit. So for me, that usually means if I can get I'll want to go to Desolation Point fairly early in the game because it's a dead end. And Crumbling Highway late in the game, it's better now because there's beachcombing, but it used to be that Crumbling Highway late in the game was a real pain. There's an argument for us to try to rush to Timberwolf Mountain early. Not Timberwolf Mountain. We rush to get to Blackrock early so that the max that we can roll would be a 10. Because I've lost a number of attempts to lose, to dying in Blackrock because I was staying there too long and I just luck ran out and I got killed by Timberwolves. Or just the cold, So, yeah. So sometimes things fail right at the very end. So it took us 30 attempts, and we finally beat it and got I think we had a 303-day run where we visited every single region, including zone of contamination and the Forsaken airfield. And that was when those regions came out. But we haven't been back to do this since they added Sundered Pass. So we're going to go and do that as well. So we're about 36 days in. And we have, I think we started in PV and we've made our way to Desolation Point Forge, come back. Yeah. So it's kind of fun. If you want to see sort of the full rules, just click on the Google Doc link that I provided, and you'll see like all the different things. There's annoying things like you have to be out by midnight, and there are no excuses. You can't like say, "Oh, I'm in the middle of harvesting a bear." No, you got to go. Or you say like, "It's right at the beginning of the run, and I have no matches." And it's an Aurora. I'm like, yeah, tough luck. You're going to have to travel at night. Your spawn time has a huge impact on your survivability for this challenge. Because if you start early in the day, then you have basically the whole day before midnight to get out. But if you spawn at dusk, you only have from dusk until midnight to get out. And so the one that we did finish, like all the regions, 303 days, we had a dusk spawn, which I did not think was going to work. And somehow, miraculously, we made it work. This current run is much better set up. We have a late morning spawn, I think around 10 or 11 o'clock. So we've got most of the day to get out of the region. So I do like this a lot. There's some other challenges. If you want some other like fun challenges, what else is there that I have? Oh, I have to look up my list here. Roll with it. One of the ones I have not been able to finish because I always mess it up by doing something else is the Cave Dweller Challenge, where you're not allowed to sleep. It's kind of like Outer Loper Light or Nagoa Light. It's you can't sleep in any indoor place. You must sleep in caves, mines, cars, snow shelters, but you can't sleep in a man-made structure, Then that one's kind of not too bad. Oh, there it is. Luck of the Draw is kind of a fun one too. Yeah. Let's see. So Luck of the Draw is a little easier. You basically have a deck of cards, and every time you enter a region, you draw a card, and the suit tells you the resource that it's going to impact, and the number on the card tells you the days, or the amount. So, like if you draw an Ace of Hearts, would mean you have to gain 1 kilogram of meat while in that region. So you have to harvest 1 kilogram of meat while in that region before you're allowed to go. Diamonds. So if you got a 7 of diamonds, it would be 7 days. You have to stay 7 days before you can leave. If you got like a 9 of clubs, it would be some combination of hides or guts that you harvest in that region before you can go. And spades is the easiest. You can, you got a 3 of spades. It's just 3 kilograms of water you have to have boiled before you can go. So I feel like that one's a lot easier than the than Roll With It. Roll With It is really really its own fun but horrible challenge to work through. I've done other ones where I have done Matchless. Matchless was fun. Matchless is Interloper, but you can only start fires with flares, maglens, or fire striker. You cannot use matches. So you have to survive 50 days without ever using a match. In Interloper. And so I've completed that. And then I've also done ones where I've inadvertently made a challenge harder than expected. So I did, the first time I played Misery Mode, I survived 41 days, but I survived 41 days without ever finding a bedroll and without successfully crafting a bow. So that was, I killed, I don't think I killed any animals in the entire Misery run. And I did not have a bedroll the entire Misery run. And I made it 41 days before I think, I can't remember if it was cold or a wolf. One of the two finished me off. No, I remember what it was. It was I died while crafting the bow because I was so low in condition and I, had run out of food. So, but 41 days without a bedroll in Misery is kind of also an unintended challenge. But yeah, I had this a long series of runs where I kept on not finding the bedroll in the usual spawns. And so I was training myself to go like 10, 15, 20, and occasionally like 30 days without a bedroll. And then finally I had the Misery run. It was 41 days without a bedroll. It's like, this is ridiculous. So, but anyways, those are some of the fun little challenges I made. And then I'm also a D&D player and DM. So sometimes you'll hear me talking about, just this week, I'm starting 2 separate campaigns that I'm running locally, 2 different groups. And so you'll hear me give some updates about how those games are going so far. And, you can always ask me questions about D&D or role-playing games in general, or you can ask me about poetry. We always finish off with at least one poem at the end of the session, at the end of the stream. And you can always use your points to request other poems. You can ask me to read. You could ask me for a poem by someone else if you just want to hear me read it. If you want something on a theme, I take requests, and then if I can track it down, I'll do the best I can with that. And then sometimes some diehards will ask me to read from my dissertation because they find it interesting. And so we'll read a little excerpt from that, or they'll get me to read things that aren't poetry. So, and depending on the time of year, it's usually around holiday season, Christmas. I have a number of Christmas carols that I've rewritten to fit the TLD themes. So, some of them just work really well. So, So we'll read something else, and also read from the Maltese Falcon because that was requested, and I decided to make that an ongoing thing. So let's do our poem chooser and see what we get. Loop. Okay, so we're going to get something else from Babbage's Dream. This is my second book of poetry. Mentioned this earlier, but once again, Babbage's Dream for the new people. Published by Sundress Publications in 2017. And let's see, you can read more about it here. Actually, I don't. I need to update those links because I recently rebuilt my website. So I think what you want here will be this. I think this will work. Okay. So let's see. What we got? We got Loop. So Loop comes from a series of poems that were inspired by programming terms. And I always thought it was interesting how a word can mean one thing within the very specific world of computer programming and yet have a whole different set of connotations outside of that. And bringing the two together in kind of a poetic way was something I want to play with. So this is called Loop. Here is the key and the kite, and the string that winds its way to heaven, or so we suppose. One thing circling back on another, returning. The pattern is always set in advance. The corner turned, we find the same storefronts, the same blank-eyed windows of banks. Not destiny, just our inability to escape ourselves and what we've written. Rain returning to the river, lightning to the hand that calls it home. All late summer, the sparrows in the dark skies, the rise and fall of kingdoms of waves on the lake shore, the body of the world breathes in and out, and we believe, as Babbage says, that what we've seen in the past will somehow determine what comes next. How his guest hovered by the engine in the front parlor, churning its continual flow of numbers into a miracle, when at last its tally leaped, seemingly unbidden by a millionfold. The scope of the spiral larger than any had imagined, the rules different, unknown, the same way I loop back to the place in memory where it begins, where it might end, you in the courtyard, lit by the laundry room's glow. How your face turns in the light, and half-formed words stir in the fire of my iron-plated belly, as if I were part machine, part prairie blaze, with a heart full of gears and smoked honeysuckle, a mouth that only speaks in steam, the language of vapor and longing, and a kiss that circles above our heads and never quite descends. So a little behind the poem for Loop. So like that opening image, the key and the kite and the string, obviously that's Benjamin Franklin and sort of the just sort of his experiments in electricity and kind of also forming a circuit, a loop, right? So you learn that early on in computer engineering. And also these loops in terms of film loops where you just see the same scenes loop back over and over and over again. And then it talks about our inability to escape ourselves and what we've written, kind of gestures back to the programmers, but also to writers who kind of become fixated on a few topics or a few images that they can't seem to escape. They're always writing about these things. And then Babbage here refers to Charles Babbage, the 19th century mathematician and computer pioneer, because he designed, partially built, but never finished what would have been the first computer. And one of the things he was famous for was he would invite people over to his house. He had a really conveniently placed home, a rather nice home in the middle of London. And he was famous for hosting these great parties, these wonderful salons where he brought together all the smartest, most brilliant, interesting people of London together. And often he used it as an opportunity to showcase and demonstrate, prototypes of the machine that he was working on. And one of the things that he would do is he would try to, he had this little thing where he had written a routine, a little program, and every time he cranked the machine, it would produce a new number, and the guests would guess the progression of numbers, and they would assume that it was always increasing by, let's say, 10 each time. And they would say, and he would go so far and say, like, what is the next number? And they would guess. And then he'd turn it, and it would suddenly leap, like, by 10,000. And everyone was confused. It's just like, how did you do something? He says, no, because the program, operates in this particular way, where there was a condition where it reaches this point and then it advances in a different way. So conditional statements, all this loops and conditional statements, modern programming, but Babbage was already working with it back then. And he'd use this to kind of illustrate that as human beings, our perception of the natural world was kind of artificial. Essentially, what he was saying is that whenever we see something that deviates from what we think is the natural pattern, so let's say something that's a miracle, like in the language of religion, he says it's not breaking with the law and order of the universe. It doesn't it doesn't break the rules of logic, but instead it is the execution of a subroutine that was planned in advance. And so for him, he had like this explanation for miracles that really came back to programming, which I thought was really fascinating that he could do that. And so we have all these other loops, and then kind of these moments in our lives where time seems to stop, and we kind of loop back over the memory of something over and over again, whether it gets completed or not completed. Okay, so that's a little bit of Babbage's Dream. Some of the poems in Babbage's Dream are more centered on Charles Babbage's life. Some of them focus on modern programming spaces and programmers, and some of them revolve around famous artificially intelligent like characters, like whether they're creatures like Frankenstein, or they're Frankenstein's creature, or they're famous in literature and film. So like HAL 9000 gets a poem in here as well. Jean-Luc Godard's Alphaville, which is very strange French New Wave cinema, has also a very famous supercomputer named Alpha 60, and Alpha 60 makes an appearance in one of the poems too. So, yeah. Let's figure out who we can go read. Thanks for hanging out in my my poetry discussion at the end of my TLD stream for tonight. So thanks for all the follows. Yeah, so really appreciate it. I guess I should also say what my schedule is probably going to be. I'm adjusting. I just moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, so I'm adjusting to changes in time. I have a new job, which means I have a different schedule. And as I mentioned, I'm also running 2 D&D games. So basically, I think my schedule is probably going to be Monday, Wednesday, and I think Sunday nights. So I think that's probably going to be how it plays out. With the occasional Friday night if I feel like it. But I'm going to try to be social. I will try to be social. This Friday, I'm going out to dinner with a number of writer friends, and so I will not be streaming on Friday night. And so you'll see me Sunday night. Okay. And I appreciate it. Thanks again. And I think, hold on a second. Let's see. We should do a proper shout out for Effie Blackart. Let me pull up something
Need
here.
some company now that I'm leaving. Well, come check out my OnlyFans.
Oh,
I
that's
dress
his
in a
name.
tuxedo and show my butt.
Emotional, damn it. Emotional, damn it. Emotional, damn it.
Oh my God, y'all are cracking me up. Oh, you wouldn't be put back down. I would rescue you. That's right.
Okay, and then we will see. We'll find someone to raid. That was an oldie. Yeah. Hey, who's up that we can go visit? Hyperman's up. Duke Snookum's up, and anyone else that we want to drop in on? Sometimes we raid new folks, but I think we might just do Hyperman tonight. Hyperman's day 612. Hardcore. Okay. Okay, let's get this raid underway. Thank you all for hanging out. So we'll go to Hyperman, and I will get some rest because I have to be up in the morning and do the work thing. So, okay, thank you all for everything. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the raids, and we'll be back again on Sunday night.